The U.S. and Iran will continue negotiations over the nuclear program this weekend. Israelis are concerned about conflicting messages coming from the U.S. Special Envoy.
Meanwhile, Iran is encroaching on an ancient Christian enclave in Iraq. The move is putting thousands of Iraqi Christians at risk. Chris Mitchell reports from Jerusalem.
With the U.S. and Iran scheduled for more talks this Saturday, many in Israel are watching with concern.
I think the central concern, or the big unknown, is whether or not the Trump administration is going to insist during these negotiations with an uprooting or a total dismantlement of the nuclear program infrastructure in Iran.
According to U.S. mediator Steve Witkoff, the initial talks focused on how far Iran could enrich uranium. Later, he seemed to walk that back on X. A deal with Iran will only be completed if it is a Trump deal. Iran must stop and eliminate its nuclear enrichment and weaponization program. Lapine says negotiating over enriching uranium goes down the same road as previous administrations.
But it didn't take apart the nuclear infrastructure, those underground sites and their centrifuges in Natanz, in Fordow, and other sites across Iran. You know, what Prime Minister Netanyahu described as the Libya model, which is really destroying the very ability to enrich uranium and not just freezing the enrichment uranium process. That's the concern. That's the big unknown.
Iran is not only threatening Israel, but tens of thousands of Christians in northern Iraq. Nadine Maenza is the former chair of the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom.
Well, unless the United States intervenes immediately, the historic Christian city of Karakash in the Nineveh Plains of Iraq will fall tomorrow into the hands of U.S.-sanctioned Iranian-backed militia leader Rain Kildani. So Kildani has already ousted 14 other mayors and directors from the Nineveh Plains.
Maenza wrote a letter to President Trump that the White House has a powerful opportunity to protect the Christians of the Nineveh Plains during Holy Week.
My understanding from the people on the ground and in the government that is if the President of the United States or Secretary of State Marco Rubio called the Prime Minister Soudani of Iraq, that he would likely put a pause on this and there would be further talks about what could happen going forward. So we just urge the White House to intervene, talk to the Prime Minister of Iraq.
Tens of thousands of Christians in the Nineveh Plains celebrated Palm Sunday, but Maenza says this could be the last stand for Christians there without immediate intervention.
Well, CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell joins us now from Jerusalem. So, Chris, tell us more about the Nineveh Plains, the Christians that have been there, and why does Iran want control of that?
Well, there in the Nineveh Plains, Gordon, it's an ancient Christian community. They love Jesus. They have a deep faith. They've been persecuted for many centuries. For example, many of these Syriac Christians refused to convert to ISIS when it dominated that part of Iraq. Also, it's we've been in there several years ago, and just wonderful, wonderful people. In terms of Iran, this is part of Iran's long-range plan to get a land bridge through Syria, through Iraq, through Syria to the Mediterranean. That's harder now with all the changes that have been going on in Syria, but taking it over is a step in that direction. It's a very strategic area geopolitically. Iran could use it for human trafficking, drug trafficking, weapon shipments. So if the Iranian militias are not pushed back, not only if they're pushed back, it would not only save the community, but others, I've been told, would return to the area. It could thrive. So it's a really critical time right now, Gordon, one way or the other. Keeping the Christians there in the area was going to bring salt and light to the land.
Tell us more about the Christian community. Are these Chaldean Christians? Have they been there for 2,000 years?
Chaldean Christians, Syriac Christians, a diverse community. But yes, they have been there for centuries, maybe one of the first Christian communities in the whole region. And that's why they feel like right now they're at risk. And what they're hoping President Trump is going to do about it is really going to push back on what's happening. To tell you the story, Karakosh is what's the thing that may fall right now. It's the religious center of the Nineveh Plains. And if it falls to this Iranian-backed leader, the Christians won't feel safe. Many have left already. Many more thousands are planning to leave. And as we said in the report, it could be the last thing.
It looks like we've lost Chris. Please be in prayer for this community. This is one of the more ancient Christian communities in the Middle East. And I've heard for several decades now, why aren't the Christians in America concerned about us? And whether that's the Christians in Armenia or the Chaldean Christians or the Syriac Christians, when ISIS was devastating them, when these radical Muslim groups were coming in. Well, one of the history lessons here is the Baathists were in control of Syria and Iraq for decades, and they were essentially a secular government, and they provided protection for the Christians. And in their removal under the Bush administration in Iraq, and now what just happened in Syria, those protections are now over, and the radical Muslims are coming in, and they're literally taking the ground. And the persecution is horrific. They're killing, and they're destroying churches, and we're losing a huge part of Christian history in our lifetime. So let's pray for them. Let's advocate for them. Let's do anything we can to protect them. In other news, President Trump is ramping up pressure on Harvard University. The Ivy League school is resisting his demands to address anti-Semitism on campus. George Thomas has the details.
The president is doubling down on Harvard, suggesting that the university should lose its tax-exempt status if it fails to reform. Writing on Truth Social, he said perhaps Harvard should be taxed as a political entity if it keeps pushing political, ideological, and terrorist-inspired supporting sickness.
The president has been quite clear they must follow federal law. He also wants to see Harvard apologize, and Harvard should apologize for the egregious anti-Semitism that took place on their college campus against Jewish American students.
This came after the administration froze more than $2 billion in funding for the Ivy League school, with an additional $7 billion at stake for refusing its demands to address anti-Semitism on campus and reform DEI policies. Harvard's president shot back, posting online that no government, regardless of which party is in power, should dictate what private universities can teach, whom they can admit and hire, and which areas of study and inquiry they can pursue.
What the Trump administration is doing is illegal, and the university has a very strong legal position here that the First Amendment and the Civil Rights Act do not permit what the Trump administration is demanding.
One law expert told CBN's Faith Nation that Harvard will likely sue the government to protect its funding.
I believe it had over $54 billion in endowments as of last summer. It has the funds to fight the Trump administration all the way. So we will absolutely see a legal challenge that will probably wind its way to the Supreme Court at some point.
Currently, 60 universities, including Northwestern, Brown, Princeton, and Cornell, are under investigation for allegedly tolerating anti-Semitism on their campuses.
There are a lot of our higher ed institutions that likely did violate Title VI by not responding to known incidents of unprotected speech or unprotected conduct, including violence targeted against Jewish students because of their Jewish identity.
Experts argue that in recent years, especially following Hamas's attacks on October 7th, college campuses have become hotbeds for anti-Semitism, with an increasing number of incidents involving hate speech and discrimination targeting Jewish students and faculty.
It's like a tidal wave. It's like standing against a tidal wave right now with an umbrella. It is so overwhelming for the Jewish students, for the pro-Israel Christian students, for any student who believes Israel has a right to live in peace and safety.
George Thomas, CBN News.
Well, I hope the Trump administration keeps it to anti-Semitism and the absolute need to protect Jewish students on any campus. That needs to be enforced. That is part of federal law and part of sort of the agreement. If you're going to receive federal money at your university, then you need to protect all students, regardless of their belief. On the other side, though, if you extend it too far and you're getting into free speech issues and into academic freedom issues as to what the university can and cannot study, well, then Harvard's going to push back and push back very hard. And absolutely, they have a war chest to do it. So this is going to be knockdown, drag-out fight I just hope the administration sees, let's just keep it to anti-Semitism. Don't go any further and try to put tax-exempt status or these other things. Keep the focus very narrow. How do we protect the Jewish students on campus?